Looking at some of the best picks in day 3 of the NFL draft this year, let's start it out in the 6th round with Kayshon Boutte, LSU wide receiver to the New England Patriots. This is a guy who around this time last year had some buzz that he might be the top receiver in this class, had first round buzz, fell to the 6th round after a relatively disappointing season this year. 48 receptions, 538 yards, and 2 touchdowns at LSU. You look at his career history though, freshman All-American in 2020 after Jamar Chase opted out that season, had 14 catches, 308 yards, and 3 touchdowns versus Ole Miss in one game. 2021, 509 yards and 9 touchdowns in only 6 games. I look at this pick for the New England Patriots. I think this is a really good fit for him where he can go in, be that slot type of guy. Maybe doesn't need to contribute right away, can develop behind the likes of Juju Smith-Schuster, Tyquan Thornton, Devontae Parker. I like this fit for Kayshon Boutte. Florida middle linebacker Ventrell Miller staying in the state, heading to the Jacksonville Jaguars here in the 4th round. A guy who, when he was on the field and healthy, was a really high volume and productive tackler. Missed some time due to injury, missed the Senior Bowl this year, had surgery in his foot due to a fracture, suffered a torn bicep last year. But when he was on the field, a sound tackler, a guy who's a good run stuffer, fits the lane well, understands his assignments really well, was the leader of that Florida defense. I think Jacksonville's a really good fit for him. He fits well next to first-round pick Devin Lloyd from last year, an athletic, rangy middle linebacker. Miller brings that run-stuffing physical presence to the Jaguars defense. Cleveland Browns added UCLA quarterback Dorian Thompson-Robinson during the run on quarterbacks in day 3. Here in the 5th round, DTR was a nice pickup for the Browns. Joins a quarterback room featuring Josh Dobbs and Kellen Mond behind Deshaun Watson. When I look at DTR, this is a guy that Joe Vaughn was a big fan of throughout the process. DTR this year, 3,169 yards, 27-10 touchdown to interception ratio, 645 rushing yards and 12 touchdowns. DTR and Bo Nix, the only FBS quarterbacks with more than 25 passing touchdowns and 11 rushing touchdowns. I think he fits really well with what the Browns want to do behind Deshaun Watson. That's a nice competition, 3 solid quarterbacks in Josh Dobbs, who started for the Titans at the end of the year, Kellen Mond, the former Vikings prospect, and now DTR in the mix. Dawand Jones, offensive tackle out of Ohio State, similar to Ventrell Miller, staying in the same state that he played college football in, heading to the Cleveland Browns here. I like this pick for the Browns. Dawand Jones was a guy that I had a first-round grade on, had him slotted at 26 to the Dallas Cowboys in my mock. At 6'8", 360 pounds, with the progressions we saw him took this year, I think this is a guy who is no doubt going to have a long, successful career in the NFL. His size and power matched with some of his agility, a basketball background, a guy who I think will continue to improve in the NFL, get more athletic, get stronger. Love this pick for the Browns in the 4th round. Think he should have went way earlier. Princeton wide receiver Andrei Iosivas here to the Bengals in the 6th round, a guy who was an NCAA All-American on the track and field team at Princeton. Also a guy who was a standout for Princeton, an all-Ivy selection multiple seasons, Princeton's top receiver, a guy whose track speed really translates to the field, had that 4.3 40 in the NFL Combine. Listen, I think he doesn't get enough credit for being a really polished route runner, a guy who's physical off the line of scrimmage and can create separation for himself. Also a guy who tacks the football and catches the ball really well. Bengals also drafted Charlie Jones out of Purdue, a guy that I'm a fan of, versatile, really well-rounded pass catcher. And while we're here, just want to mention Luke Whippler. You can go back and watch those Dawand Jones clips. Ohio State center, drafted by the Browns as well. He'll be paired with Dawand Jones on that offensive line. J.L. Skinner to the Broncos in the 6th round. One of my favorite safeties throughout this process because I think he brings a lot of versatility and positional alignment to a defense. A guy who's 6'4", can line up in the box, cloud up the middle of the field in passing lanes, also contribute in the run game. I think he could throw on a little bit more weight in the NFL, but nonetheless a really sound tackler, a guy who has a lot of power to his hits. But then also, I think he's a guy who, like you're seeing in these Wyoming clips, can line up in the back half of the field, be that center fielder, take away a deep half of the field, and have a lot of range and cover a lot of ground for a defense. Really good pick for the Broncos, a team that's going to look to reinvent that defense this year. Boise State's J.L. Skinner, a good way to do it. Jose Ramirez, defensive end out of Eastern Michigan, coming in here to the Bucs in the 6th round. Really impressive motor and get off. Love the way he gets off the football. Was the max defensive player of the year this season after recording 12 sacks, 19.5 tackles for loss, 66 total tackles. Those 12 sacks, second most in the FBS. Excited to see what he can do in Tampa Bay, a defense that has some talent up front. Kalijah Kanes, who was a great pick in the 1st round. Jose Ramirez could pair well with that group. Wagner defensive end, outside linebacker Titus Leo here to the Colts in the 6th round. Really explosive edge rusher, has a lot of speed to him, held his own in the one-on-one portions of the East-West Shrine Bowl practices, was initially recruited to Wagner as a receiver, played some linebacker, safety, hybrid in high school, but was mainly focused on playing a receiver when he came to Wagner. Wound up becoming one of their best defensive players, was the NEC's Defensive Player of the Year this year. I'm excited to see what he does. Great to see him get drafted. I think the Colts is a really good fit for him, somewhere that he could fit in with an explosive, fast defense that fits his style of play. TCU quarterback Max Duggan here in the 7th round of the Chargers. This is someone I've been relatively high on in the process because I still think there's a lot more to his game. Relatively raw still, only 22 years old, and this was mainly his only season as the full-time starter. Started some games in the past, dealt with some injuries, and then this year was in a quarterback battle. Wound up not even starting their first game, came in the second week, lit it up, and then held on to the job, went undefeated in the regular season, lost in the Big 12 championship and the national championship. I look at Duggan, I see someone with a lively arm, got some athleticism to him, but what I really like is his toughness. He's very tough in the pocket, resilient after big hits. I'm excited to see what he does with the Chargers. That's going to wrap it up for this video, although there's a number of day 3 prospects I could talk about. We've got Asim Richards, UNC offensive tackle, heading to the Dallas Cowboys. Owen Popoa, Auburn middle linebacker, heading to Arizona. And then Chase Brown heading to the Bengals. Let me know if you guys want to see another one of these. We could get a part 2 of the best day 3 prospects in this year's draft.